Mi nombre es Denise y yo soy la asesora de Education USA para Sonora. Y el día de hoy vamos a tener la sesión de cartas de recomendación y entrevistas efectivas por parte de Jorge Reyes, quien es el asesor de Education USA para Mérida. Pero antes de que comencemos, let me switch to English because this session will be completely in English since the application and the proficiency that you must have in order to be um, well, to get this scholarship must be in English. You have to be proficient in English. We're going to switch. So Jorge, the spotlight is yours.
Okay, well, thank you very much, Denise. I'm going to start sharing my screen and hopefully you guys can see. Just let me know, please, if you're able to see it already.
Yeah, we can see it. Thanks.
Okay, well, thank you very much. So as Denise said, my name is Jorge Reyes. I am the Education USA advisor based in Mérida, Yucatan. I cover 4 states in Mexico, which is the peninsula part, which is Yucatan, Campeche, Quintana Roo, and also Chiapas. So if you are from one of these states, well, I'm your closest advisor, okay? And today I have the honor to be with you guys. Hopefully the whole bootcamp will be a good resource for you to submit a good application. And eventually, maybe if you get a good application and if you get like an outstanding interview with outstanding requirements, well, you eventually can get one of these. Yeah. How do you like it? It's good, right? So let's get started, right? So we're going to divide this session in 2 parts. The first part will be, I will be talking about letters of recommendation. And also the second part will be about some interview tips for you guys, okay? So let's get to it then. Okay, there you go. So first of all, the importance of letters of recommendation, okay? So we already know, maybe we already have an understanding about what is a letter of recommendation and the use for it, okay? So remember, the whole process for the scholarship is a holistic review. So letters of recommendation are important, but also yesterday we had a session regarding personal statements and CV with Adri from Morelia, okay? So that's another important aspect also from the scholarship. And also we have the CV. Your CV, you have to submit your CV, and eventually you'll have to submit also your transcripts, okay? So with this, what I'm saying is that all these 4 requirements are very important, and we don't say, okay, letters of recommendation will be more important than your statement of purpose. No, they all matter, okay? So that's why you need to prepare a strong application, okay? So first of all, the letter of recommendation is the only document that, first of all, you are not totally on control of it. And secondly, is the only document where we see you through the eyes of other people, okay? In this case, recommenders. I will be talking about who your recommenders can be and eventually like all the information and how to put together a strong letter of recommendation, okay? But just a quick overview about the letter of recommendation, okay? So it has to have your academic and extracurricular activities, again, through the perspective of from the recommender, okay? It can show, or it may show your unique talents, your work and life experiences, and everything, okay? So remember, everything will be about you, not the recommender. So this is something which is very important because sometimes recommender, they like to talk about themselves and some other things, okay? So it is very important for you guys to understand what the letter of recommendation will be for, okay? Okay, moving on. So remember that this bootcamp is specifically for the Education USA Opportunity Funds. However, this process that you will be working on, it is very similar to the process that you will be doing if you apply to direct to a university in the States, okay? So for some universities, they don't require a letter of an interview, a virtual or even an in-person interview, okay? So letters of recommendation are this resource that universities also use in order to get to know you. Okay. In our case, in our specific case for the scholarship, well, again, it gives us a letter of recommendation can give us another picture of yourself, because in these letters of recommendation we get to know you again through the perspective from another people, but also get to know your interests and your academic objectives and your professional goals. Okay, so again, if you recommender, I'm going to talk about a little bit this. If your recommender, let's say, is your mainly, it has to be it has to be your professor. Okay, it doesn't matter. It matters what kind of professor, but eventually the professor that aligns with your academic profile. Okay, and again, it can both help because eventually we want like good letters of recommendation. Okay, but eventually if you didn't have a good relationship with this professor or with this recommender, well, it can seriously hurt you. So that's why you have to be very objective about the recommenders you are picking. Okay, so again, the letter of recommendation provides another picture of yourself, and as it says here, it can shed light about extracurricular activities, personal background, or things that you can even forget about yourself, but your recommender may have in his or her mind. Okay, now choosing the recommender. So how many recommenders should you choose? Okay, quick question for you. How many letters of recommendation is the convocatory asking for? Somebody? Two letters of recommendation. Okay, two. Okay, yes. So this year we are asking for 2 letters of recommendation. However, and this is my personal opinion, I don't know about Mariana, and I don't know about Stephanie, and I don't know about Denise. But remember, a letter of recommendation, it is something that is not under your total control. So you are relying on somebody else, on a professor, on a teacher, on your coordinator, or whomever you will pick to be your recommender, right? So remember, these people, this person, they are also people. They do have lives again. So with this, you have to think in advance about when asking and when looking for this recommender. So this is Jorge saying this, okay? I would recommend for you not looking for only 2 recommenders, okay? Maybe look for 3 or even for 4 recommenders, because accidents may happen. Something that I learned about the pandemic when we were running this program back in 2020, I do remember an advisee telling me, hey, you know what, Jorge, I couldn't get my letters of recommendation because my professor is passing through a divorce. Well, life happens, okay? My professor is having an accident or whatever. So you have to think in advance and maybe say, okay, well, if the scholarship is asking for only 2 letters of recommendation, well, might as well, I will be thinking in, I don't know, like 3 recommenders or even 4 recommenders. So it is better to have a backup plan than having no plan at all, okay? So this is my recommendation. I don't know what Mariana, Stephanie, and Denise might say, or maybe some other advisors in Mexico, but this is a recommendation that I always suggest, okay? So again, thinking about that you are asking for other people. Another quick question, when is the deadline for the scholarship? Okay, January 30th, February, okay, nice. February 15th, okay. My suggestion, if a professor is watching this webinar, this session, it's totally fine. But again, you as an applicant, my advice would be, okay, don't tell your recommender that your deadline is on February 15th. Why? Because then you'll have your Valentine's Day all compromised because you are waiting for your recommender to give you your letter of recommendation, and maybe it's not happening. So maybe a suggestion and a piece of advice that I can give you is, well, maybe tell your recommender that you need the letter no later than February the 5th. This is just a suggestion, okay? I don't know, Mariana, Stephanie, or Denise might say something different, but this is just me, okay? So again, just be prepared and think ahead, okay? Think ahead about the time of your recommender, I don't know, their work schedule, their workload, if they are professors. Eventually you'll get the picture, right? Yes. So with this, you are kind of guaranteeing how many letters you might need, okay, and how many recommenders. And if you'll get like the 4 letters of recommendation that you ask, well, that is something good, because that means that your recommenders are very committed. And eventually, when you'll need your letters of recommendation to submit for the universities, well, you know that you can rely on that people, okay? So moving on. Oh no, still away. Okay. From who? Okay. Most likely, we want to see letters of recommendation from professors, from teachers, from people that were witnesses of your academic journey. Okay, that, because again, the scholarship is for an academic program, right? So in this case, we would like to see how your professors, how your teachers, maybe the researchers that work along with you, see you. How do they perceive you in the academic context? Eventually, maybe you can mix one letter of recommendation with, okay, one, yes, it has to be from an academic context. The second one, it could be maybe from from a professional context, okay? Maybe from a boss, maybe from a coordinator. And again, think about people that have known you for at least, I don't know, maybe 6 months, maybe Mariana, Stephanie, Denise, maybe, I don't know. That's the amount of, like, the minimum time of time that I could suggest, okay? So don't ask people to write a letter of recommendation if you just know this person for the last 15 days, because, well, maybe it won't be the most assertive recommendation that this person may write about you, okay? So eventually he or she might have the will to write you a letter of recommendation, but eventually the content will be maybe poor and won't be as heavy in this case as something that we are expecting, okay? So again, regarding if it is a letter of recommendation from a professor, well, how many classes, how many courses did you take with him or with her? So, and evaluate this person about, okay, could this professor tell something like detailed about me, or he might just write, or she might just write something like, okay, so I don't know, Jorge Reyes is a good student, and that's it. And perhaps I spent, I don't know, like a year and a half in a class with this professor, but eventually this letter of recommendation is not as good as I might think, okay? So again, think about recommenders, okay? And yeah, so, and always try to link the kind of program that you are pursuing with the professor that might recommend you, because again, this is creating a narrative from where you were and where you are eventually and where you want to be. Okay, again, remember the purpose of the letter of recommendation in this case is only for asking for the scholarship, for the Education USA Opportunity Funds, but eventually you'll need some other letters of recommendation for the universities. Okay. So, and again, if you have any questions already, feel free to write them on the chat box. And I guess the awesome Education USA team of advisors are there to guide you, to answer you, okay? Another important aspect, okay, the language. Do not choose a recommender only because she or he speaks English, because that might not be the great scenario. I mean, if it was your English teacher and eventually you are pursuing, I don't know, a linguistics program or something like that, something like in education in English or something alike, well, that could be obviously like good, right? But eventually maybe you'll end up with a professor that he was really good with you and you had a great relationship with him or with her, but eventually she or he doesn't speak English, and even he or she doesn't write in English. So maybe you are compromised about, hey, you know what? I don't know about this professor. He's like so good with me, and I had a great. I mean, I still have a great relationship with him or with her, but her English is not as great. Well, good news for you, right, Mariana? Because this year, I mean, we have done this throughout the years, but eventually, I mean, this is a good news for you, right? Because you can submit your letters of recommendation in Spanish, okay? Eventually, yeah, we would like to see letters of recommendation in English, yes. But if, I mean, don't stress out, because if it is not something possible for you, well, don't stress. You can ask your recommenders for writing the letters of recommendation in Spanish. That's totally cool. Okay. Another important aspect, or another important thing, don't select your recommender just because his or her title or his or her position. I mean, let's say you want the principal, the main rector of your university, to write you a letter of recommendation. Well, that would be very good, right? But eventually, if this principal doesn't know you at all, well, uh, I mean, his position, his title won't matter that much to us, honestly. I mean, we would like to see, in this case, better letters of recommendation with a deep content talking about yourself. Okay. So, I mean, we are not saying, hey, well, if it is your professor, well, it's okay, it doesn't matter. It does matter. It does matter a lot, because that specific professor, that specific teacher may have a deeper understanding about your context. Okay. And again, something that I said already. Okay. Can you rely on the recommender? I mean, in this specific case, you are uploading the letters of recommendation, right? So with this, meaning that the recommender has to share his or her letter of recommendation with you. So in this case, we are kind of safe, I want to say, but at the same time, I mean, can you rely on the specific on your recommenders to deliver you the letter on time? Remember, my suggestion, my piece of advice is, don't share with the recommenders your specific a deadline for the scholarship. Okay. Just be aware of that. Okay. But again, can you rely on the recommender to be on time with you, and just like to fulfill the assignment that you have already shared with them? Okay. When? In this case, we are saying, okay, maybe, I mean, if the scholarship is closing on February 15 and we are on the 14th, that gives us kind of a month. Well, think ahead of this and just don't do a month. Maybe, I don't know, 2.5 weeks or even 3 weeks. I don't know. That's up to you. Okay. But just remember, be aware of the time. Okay. So let's say you are asking your recommender to write the letter of recommendation for you today or tomorrow. Okay. So maybe in 1 week, I mean, in the upcoming week, just make a check-in with the recommender. Hey, you know what? Do you need anything from myself, from Education USA, to give you like some information about what to include in the letter of recommendation? Again, just be intentional with your recommender. Okay. Yeah, consider the school time if you are already in classes, well, think ahead of that again. Okay. And something that I already said, the student's deadline should not be the actual deadline. Okay. Again, remember that we are dealing with people, so you are relying on people, and people, we do have lives again. Okay. Okay. Setting the recommender up for success. Okay. Here are some tips, some pieces of advice about what can I share with the recommenders. Okay. There is this piece of paper called brag sheet that we always encourage students to provide to the recommenders. So basically, what is a brag sheet is something that you share with your recommender about your achievements, about the classes that you had with this professor, with this teacher, something for the recommender to remember you in the academic and in the classes and throughout the history that you have built up with this specific recommender. Okay. In this case, since again these letters of recommendation will be used only for the scholarship, well, they can address the letters of recommendation to Education USA Opportunity Funds Committee. Okay. Eventually, as I said, you'll need some letters of recommendation for the universities, but at the same time, that's not the moment for it. Again, this is a great exercise to get to know the process about asking for letters of recommendation. And not only that, I mean, also for personal statement and CVs and testing and so on, right? But at the same time, this is not something that you'll use right now for the universities. This is something that you'll use only for the scholarship, okay? Yes, it is interesting to get to know through the recommender's perspective, what have you shared about your academic goals, your professional objectives, and so on. So okay. So we have a copy of this guidelines document that we can share with you guys as well. We have it, and I mean, there is something that we can share. We can do it too. Okay. And again, just try to schedule some check-in meetings with the recommender just to check on them, okay? Not to pressure, but just to check, just to ask, hey, do you need anything from me, from Education USA? Maybe say between the lines, say, how are you going with my letter of recommendation? You know, just to be present. Okay. What does a recommender should include in a letter of recommendation? Okay. Well, first of all, remember, this is an academic scholarship, okay? So we obviously would like to see your academic strength. How the professor, how the teacher, how the recommender notice your progress, your development throughout the year, throughout the period of time that you have built this relationship, okay? Maybe, I don't know, maybe you have some challenges along the way in your high school or in your undergraduate degree or in your master's. And if this professor can share some of this information, well, that would be really good, because again, we are people, we are persons, and we tend to empathize with some of these aspects, okay? So again, just give the recommender the freedom to write about yourself until the moment that you feel confident at the same time, okay? But again, just provide the recommender with information that you already know will be important and relevant for the scholarship itself, okay? And also you can share some personal personal context if you feel comfortable with it. Just say, I don't know, because maybe a professor, the relationship started like this recommender being your professor, and eventually you are working with this professor. So the relationship kind of shifted from an academic context to a professional and a friendship context, okay? So just be clear and be transparent with the recommender. What you want to include, what you want the recommender to include in the letter of recommendation, okay? But again, basically it's information about you, academic, that's the first thing that I would suggest, and maybe personal stuff as well. Okay, here are some kind of examples about what you can share on this brag sheet, saying, okay, these are some of the I don't know, some of the information that I want you to include, okay? I really love if you could include my skill, my interest, my talent in, and fill in the blank here, okay? Maybe if it is a researcher that you have worked with, well, he or she have a better idea about what to include. But if not, well, you have the power, I would say, to include about your interest, about your talents, about your skills, because maybe the recommender have forgotten about this, okay? So just be aware of that, okay? Maybe share some special projects or class memories that you share with this recommender, okay? Saying, okay, I was in your math class and I really got struck by this, I don't know, class that you share with us. It kind of shifted the way I see math. I don't know, that's something that I'm making up, right? But at the same time, just be yourself, be transparent, and be objective about what you want the recommender to write about you, okay? Yes, some other core themes. Oh, I what? All right, there you go. Okay, now the brag sheet, okay? So thinking about selecting the right recommender, well, in this case, if maybe the recommender, maybe that's something, I don't know, cheesy maybe though, but I do remember, like in school, for example, my professors didn't know my whole name, right? Maybe that's the case for many of you, but in my case, they addressed to me as Molet, because that's my second last name, okay? So for them, Jorge Reyes was somebody that they didn't know, but they knew Molet, right? Which is me. just this is something that I'm saying because you have to mention your full name, where and what will be this letter of recommendation for, what you want to study, and yeah, remind them when you met and what classes you had together, because the professor might be very busy or might forget some things. Okay. Some prompts that can include is I don't know, the influence of your family. Okay, what classes did you take with that professor? So this is something that you can put together in that brag sheet, because okay, talking about family, there are some professors that become family as well. Okay, and eventually some other professors might get to know you in a deeper in a deeper context. Okay, so just feel free about sharing what you want the recommender to write about you. Okay. Okay, so now talking about the cultural differences between American letters of recommendation and Mexican letters of recommendation. Okay. So in Mexico, if you have asked for letters of recommendation, well, for at least I do remember that when I asked for letters of recommendation a while back ago, the recommenders might say, I don't know if you can identify with this, but some of the recommenders might say, I'm so busy. Yeah, I can sign you the letter of recommendation. But just you know what? Why don't you write the letter of recommendation and then I just sign it? Okay. How many of you have been in this position? Yes, Mariana, thank you. I don't know how many of you guys, but this is something very simple. Okay, Denise too. This is something quite common here in Mexico, right? Because well, we don't have a well nowadays it's kind of changing, okay? But like 10 years ago, maybe, I don't know. That was like the way of writing letters of recommendation, and you could have like 3 letters of recommendation from 3 different recommenders saying the same thing. Okay, saying, hey, my name is Jorge Reyes and I do recommend Miguel Molet, which is also me, for the position he's applying because he's like so responsible and he's reliable and he's always on time. For this, I do not hesitate for recommend Miguel Molet for the position he's applying, signing Jorge Reyes. That was it, okay? And I could get 2 other letters of recommendation saying exactly the same thing, saying that I just download a draft from Google and just fill in the blanks with the name, with the date, maybe put a logo of, I don't know, another institution, and that's it, okay? So we don't want those kind of letters of recommendation. Those letters of recommendation will be a no. Okay, I mean, I'm being honest, and Mariana is supporting me with this. Okay, I'm being honest. Why? Because that says 2 things. First of all, that you didn't actually search for the right recommender, and at the same time, another thing, the second thing might be that this whole process may not be as important for you as you are considering. Okay, because again, you have to look for the right recommenders. Again, letters of recommendation might have the same importance as your personal statement, as your CV, and as your transcripts. Okay, so look for the right recommenders. Okay, and another thing, something that I also see like often in some letters of recommendation, like the recommender is bragging about himself or herself, saying, I don't know, I, Jorge Reyes, teacher at the Autonomous University of Education USA, have the honor to provide 120 classes throughout 3 months, and so and so and so and so. And then you have like 4 paragraphs of the recommender talking about himself or herself. And then the last like 3 lines will be about the person they are recommending. So that's another no, okay? Because yeah, it's so cool that this professor is like so successful in his academic field or his professional field, but we want to know about you, about the applicant, not the recommender. We want to know about the applicant, okay? So I know there are so many ideas saying, okay, you know what? My professor, he doesn't have access for the logo of the universities, for the logo for the about the institutions, about the high school. Will that be a problem? Not at all. Okay, we understand that some of these institutions might be kind of strict with this process, so don't you worry about the professor not including a logo. I mean, we'll be fine. We'll be good to see a letter of recommendation like that. But if not, that shouldn't be a problem. Okay. Yes, contact information is very important, because eventually, if we would like to know something about you, or maybe the professor is including something, I mean, the recommender is including something on the letter of recommendation saying, I don't know, a specific example, right? And eventually we are like curious about this example, we might get in contact with the recommender, okay? That's not always, but it could happen, okay? Yes, and some of the like the narrative that the letter of recommendation may have is how you guys meet. I mean, how you met the recommender, for how long have you known each other, and the content out of the letter of recommendation. Okay. There. Okay. A typical letter of recommendation. First of all, to whom it may concern. Well, this is acceptable, I guess, right? But remember, the scholarship is Education USA Opportunity Funds. So maybe you could include, here's a thought. Dear Education USA Opportunity Funds Committee. Maybe, I don't know. Okay. Hi, Margaret Burke, ID number, blah, 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 member of the program of English, program of Embassy of the United States in Costa Rica. Can attest that I know Jessica, ID number, that she's a great student, very passionate and responsible. She's capable of accomplishing any goals she wishes to achieve. I would appreciate any help you can give her to succeed in her academic goals. Sincerely, Margaret Burke. Okay. So 4 questions here. What are they recommending her for? It could be a position anywhere.
You can
right?
type your question. Yeah, you can type your question in the chat.
Oh yeah.
Not your question, excuse me, Jorge. Your response.
Yes.
In the chat. Sorry.
Yes. Is this for a university? Maybe is this for a scholarship? Is this for a job? So Jessica who? Right? Jessica, I don't know, Morales, Jessica, again, Jessica who? So this is the typical letter. This is the typical letter of recommendation that eventually we kind of get, not a lot, but like sometimes we can get this kind of letters of recommendation. And well, yeah. So you get my attitude, right? Okay, well, moving on. Okay, so we have some questions here. I mean, yes, Alma de la Rosa, it is not clear exactly. No one knows. Who knows? Nobody. So let's call nobody to get some information about this, right? So, okay, moving on with the next one. So kind of getting better. Hello. Well, hello there, right? Yes, Mariana, get hello there. So Miss Acheli Kawala, okay, was a student in my course related to business. She showed great interest in the topic and always participated during discussions. Her engagement and term paper indicate that she put a lot of effort. I mark her in the top 5% of her class. Well, obviously, we need contact information. We need to know about who's writing this letter. Eventually, we kind of get that is a professor related to business, maybe management, economics, I don't know, something like that. So Kelly showed great interest in the topic. Which topic? Business, maybe. And always participated during discussions. Okay, how many discussions? Maybe it was only one during the whole year. We don't know, right? Her engagement and term paper indicate that she put in a lot of effort. Okay, what was the paper about, right? I don't know. More information. We need to know. We need to know more about Kelly, right? Okay, she has now decided to study in the US and she's very interested in business and she wants to get an education at the top in order to have a great career as an entrepreneur. She came to me for an advice. As I can see that she has a profound interest in the topic and studying in the USA could undoubtedly be of benefit to her. I gave her my full support. I do hope that you would also provide her with the same support. Kind regards. Who's grading? No one knows, right? But again, it is better than the other one, right? I mean, we are kind of getting better, right? Okay, moving on. This is something different. To whom it may concern, well, we have the same start line, but again, Mariana already shared in the chat box about opportunity. To whom you can address the letter: Opportunity Funds Committee, Education USA Mexico. Just saying, dear Education USA, that would be great, right? Okay. My name is Margaret Burke. So Margaret got better now writing this letter of recommendation, right? So she's providing some information about her, okay? She was a scholar from the Fulbright program, which is good. Eventually, if she couldn't include this information, maybe she would only put, I don't know, I'm a professor at, I don't know, whatever, right? She already include that over somewhere here, okay? United States and Costa Rica, it is my honor to recommend Jessica Gonzalez. So now we know that Jessica has a last name, right? Current student at the Colegio Técnico Profesional High School of General Viejo for this scholarship opportunity. Now we know that Jessica wants a scholarship, okay? So Jessica has many characteristics that are important for being a great student and person, okay? I met her when she was part of a scholarship program called Access. Okay, so now she's providing some information about some other past academic activities that Jessica has, okay? Which is a scholarship program from of the US Embassy that helps students with low income to learn English as a second language, blah, 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 blah. Well, you'll get the picture, right? So she's providing something else here. Although there were almost 100 students, I always remember Jessica for her enthusiasm and participation in my classes. So Jessica was an outstanding student, okay? Among 100 students, so she was outstanding, okay? Okay, let's go to the final of the presentation, and I don't know how to move this thing. Okay, so time. When do they met, Jessica and Margaret? In January 2018, I had the opportunity to meet Jessica Gonzalez in a more personal way. She decided to broaden her horizons, studying English. I don't want to spend too much time on this letter, but you can see there's a difference, right? Among the 3 letters of recommendation, this is the best one, okay? So again, this is something that we want for you guys, for applicants to include in your, not you guys, the recommenders should include all this, right? So last paragraph, if you have further questions about this letter of recommendation, please feel free to contact me via email. And then we have the email. Of course, this email, it doesn't work, right? But eventually just for the exercise purpose. Now, sincerely, the signature, Margaret Burke. And again, we don't see anything else that could be added to this letter of recommendation, okay? So we have the email, we have who is Margaret Burke, title and contact information. And yeah, so basically, this is what we want on letters of recommendation. So yeah, so if you have any questions about letters of recommendation, maybe you can still write your questions on the chat box, because we're moving on to the second part of this session. Why am I having troubles to get there? Here, okay. Now, helping the recommenders, providing specific examples. Teachers, again, this is just a recap about everything that I have said already, okay? How long do they have known the students? What classes the student was in? Behavior in classes. Was a mentor for the other students? Was a mentor within his family? Has a really passion for this subject, or struggle with the subject, but showed eventually a progress or a development about the program that he or she wants to pursue right now, okay? How they think you would do at the university level. So these are some recommendations, again, for your professors. And another specific thing here, besides the academic context, I'm also involved in extracurricular activities. Shouldn't my teacher mention them? And again, we have the answer there, okay? Unless the teacher was directly involved with that extracurricular activity, no. Because eventually, we cannot ask the recommender to write everything about us if she or he doesn't know us at all, okay? Maybe you only had this relationship with the recommender in the academic context, and that's fine, okay? just let the recommender to write about specific that context, okay? So if you were involved in extracurricular activities, well, maybe you can ask a recommender from that specific context about writing a letter of recommendation within the context of extracurricular activities. Or if you are working, well, maybe having a letter of recommendation from your boss or so. Okay, so pick assertively the recommender that will, well, recommend you in the right context. Okay, and yes, now I'm moving on to the interviewing tips. Okay, yes. So what is the interview about? Okay, so the interview, if I'm correct, is the third step, right, Mariana? It is the third step among our scholarship. Okay, remember our
It's the
scholarship,
final. It's the final stage. Yep.
the final countdown. Okay,
Exactly.
so exactly, it's the final. So if you get to the stage of the interview, well, so far you've been doing good. Okay, so what do we want to see in an interview? And basically, what is the interview about? Well, first of all, we want to know you, okay? Because we already know you through a paper, through the perspective of other people. We already know that you have a good level of English because you have already shown us that you have this level of English, that you have specific and strong academic goals. But all these have been through pieces of paper, okay? So until this point, we'll get to know you, okay? I mean, you are already knowing Mariana, Stephanie, Ramiro, Denise, and eventually all of us will be interviewing you guys, like eventually, okay? But again, this is something that takes time. And yes, we want to be, in a way, I want to say not closer because we're not that close, but we want to be more personal, okay? So we want to know from your specific perspective, your motivations, your interest, how do you react to our questions? How do you, plan your academic goals, plan your professional objectives, okay? So do you have to study for the interview? Not really, because it is not a test, okay? So you have to, yes, you have to relax, but at the same time, you have to take this very, very seriously, okay? So in this case, you have to be prepared to discuss your academic plans, your professional objectives, what you want to study. This is a question that I always ask. Well, there are two questions. The first one is, why and what do you want to study, the thing that you want to study? And the second question is, why and what it is the United States, the destination to fulfill the specific answer for the first question that I asked, okay? So again, take this into consideration, okay? I am not like giving pieces of advice just for free, but that's something that you can think about, okay? Remember, why and what you want to study, the thing you want to study, and secondly, why and what is the USA, the academic destination you want to accomplish this, okay? And eventually, I mean, we have the experience already to not understand, but for at least get to know every applicant for this scholarship. Okay, so during the interview, be clear and concise. Yes, try to smile. I know we deal with a lot of like personalities and with a lot of characters and with a lot of energies during the days of the interviews. Just be yourself, okay? Listen carefully to each question. And again, these are some tips because I'm giving interview tips, right? So keep your answers clear and concise because yes, that's something that we want. We know as Mexicans, we tend to elaborate a lot, and me saying that it's something like very specific, right? Because I do elaborate a lot, but in this case, listen to each question. Just be clear and concise about the objectives, and just answer the question. Okay, speak confidently and maintain steady eye contact. How can you make eye contact through a virtual meeting? Well, just look to the camera. Look to the camera. Okay. That's the only way. I mean, if you wear glasses, well, there you go, right? Just eye contact, okay? Dress code. This is important for us, although you're only watching me from like here, but again, it might not seem important, but again, it is part of your personality, and it is part of the commitment that you are putting into the interview process again. I mean, as I said, if you'll make it to the interview stage, well, that is something that you are doing great, okay? And again, this is a scholarship interview, and we have several stories about Mariana can't remember some of those stories about applicants on their interview. Yeah, in some.
We're in pajamas, for
Yes,
example.
exactly,
Yep,
exactly.
that
Yeah.
happened.
And I mean, if it is cool to wear pajamas like uh, below your waist, right? But here, I mean, just try to be formal and try to be as responsible as possible. Okay. Okay. It's all about you. Be yourself. Yes, just be yourself. You have to be clear about your interest, not about other people's interest, not about other grantees for the scholarship, because perhaps you are following some of our grantees through social media, and eventually you'll kind of shift or swift the conversation and the interview towards another person. That's not the point of the interview, because again, we want to know you. Okay, so be clear about your interests, be clear about your passions, and the activities that you want to pursue. Talk about the qualities and experiences that make you stand out. Yes, so we'll have time to ask you not too many questions, but again, you'll have time to expand on your answers, and you'll have time to expand on your interest and whatever you want to do. Okay, so the day of the interview, um, start getting ready enough time before your scheduled time for the interview. This is something important, and be aware. I do remember Denise saying something for the people in the north. Okay, so remember, we don't have some of the states in the north part of Mexico. We don't have the same time zone. Okay, so just be aware of that. Okay, dress professionally. Yes, set up your space. Um, your space. What space here? For example, I've interviewed some applicants that they want to use some specific gadgets. In this case, like for example, some specific microphones, right? And eventually you see the microphone like here. And this is, I mean, I don't have like something like this, right? So you see the microphone here, but you don't see the face of the people. I mean, the face of the applicant, and will be kind of cheesy and not as polite, right? Just be aware of that. Eliminate distractions. I do remember another case. Well, we have several stories, right? I mean, several stories. Just eliminate distractions. You can schedule your interview, so just be aware of that. Okay, test your technology again and again and again, because we know, like for example, here in Merida, powers goes down like all the time, so just be ready to have a plan B. Okay, I don't know, put a recarga on your cell phone, and maybe be ready to use your saldo de la recarga in your cell phone. I mean, just plan B, plan C, plan D, that, okay? Log on at least 10 minutes early, and don't be desperate, because if we tell you, okay, your interview will be at 10 and you want your interview to be at 9:50, that won't be happening, okay? So your interview will be at 10, okay? Be mindful of your body language, Chris. I mean, throughout this presentation, you've seen I do a lot of like my hands. I don't know if that's bad or good. It's just me. But in this case, if it is an interview, well, I'll try to have something with my hands to be just more formal, right? Okay, so some questions to practice, not to study, just because, again, this is something about you. Tell us about yourself. What is your greatest strength, and what are your opportunity areas to be working on? Why do you deserve this scholarship? This is something very important and deep. What are your career goals? Okay, and career. This is a kind of. I mean, I still finding this some people using the word career as as it shouldn't be. Okay, remember, career is the term for your professional career. I mean, like your whole life. no tu carrera de licenciatura, okay? Who has been a role model for you? That's something that you can expand on. What obstacles have you had during your investigation, during your research? Why did you choose these schools specifically? Why do you choose the United States to study? Okay, what activities are you involved in? Again, we want to know you. We want to get to know you, and just take this into consideration about, okay, this is something that maybe the education advisors may ask during the interview. So maybe I will be just expanding, or I don't know, something like that. Again, these are some tips that we are sharing with you. Okay, and I think that was the last slide. So I don't know if we have questions. So I did it on time, I guess, right? So yeah. So questions. I mean, I saw a lot of questions in the chat box, and I know Mariana and the team were answering some of
I
them.
just tackled them. But I think Hector, Hector had a question before. He or she had their hand raised. And I'm not sure if that person would like to share their question with us or someone else.
Yeah. I mean, we still have like 4 minutes.
Hi, oh, it is me.
Yes, go ahead, Hector.
Shoot it.
Hi. Oh, so you can hear me?
Yes, we
Yes.
can.
Okay. The question was uh, with the recommendation letter. So I just want. Well, my question is gonna be that is, for example, if you have many recommendants and you need to pick the best recommendant for this opportunity funds. Um, you want to ask them if the recommendation letter it will be just for the opportunity funds scholarship, or you can use that recommendation letter for the university.
Okay. Well, in this case, I mentioned this. The letters of recommendation that we are expecting, the recommenders should grade them and address them to us, to Education USA. So with
Yeah,
this, the letter of recommendation should be um, only for the scholarship. Okay.
only for scholarship. Okay.
Yes. Yes.
Mm-hmm. Okay, that would.
Yeah, if you
Yeah.
happen to apply to a college or a university, you have to request a letter specific to that program or to that college or university. Mhm.
Mhm.
But good
I
question.
can
Thanks
ask
for
to
sharing.
the same person.
Okay, say it again.
I can ask to the same person,
Yeah, exactly. The same person, but with different purposes or
but
different programs.
but
Yeah, but the
different.
same person.
Okay.
Mhm. Yeah,
And
that works.
I think will be very cool if you ask the same person saying, hey, you know what? A year ago, I asked you for a letter of
Yeah.
recommendation for the scholarship. Now I'm asking you
Mm-hmm.
because I got the scholarship. Now I'm asking you
I
for
got
a
the
letter of
scholarship.
recommendation for the universities that I want to apply. So
Mm-hmm.
I guess it will be
Okay.
a good narrative.
Okay, that's cool.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Hector. Diego.
Hi, thank you. It's very quick. I just wanted to know if there's a specific limit or recommendation that we should tell our teachers or professors or whoever. They are asking me, and I was particularly interested because you said that we should have several, right, paragraphs or something like that. So I just wanted to know if there's a limit or something that you would recommend us to ask them.
Nice. I think I didn't include that, right? But I mean, from my perspective, a letter of recommendation should be no longer than, I don't know. And here, and I mean, we have some other advisors here, and maybe this is something like we have different opinions, and just for the sake of like reading the letter of recommendation, right? So maybe between 1 page and page and a half. I mean, the most common is 1 page, I think. I don't know, Mariana, Ramiro.
I agree because the admissions committee won't read the whole thing. If
Yeah,
you submit a letter with 5 pages, yeah.
yes. So between 1 page page and a half, maybe.
Okay, yeah,
Maybe.
thank you.
Yes. Okay. Do we have any last question?
We have
somewhere?
one last question on the chat, Jorge.
Okay.
I'm gonna read it. It says, can the recommender be part of a different place? For example, if I was part of an exchange program in another country and I ask a supervisor for it.
Okay. I may have several questions for that. Okay. The first one would be, well, you don't have any remember that you need 2 letters of recommendation for the scholarship, right? So there is no one else to recommend you here in Mexico. Because again, if I mean, in my head, if it was an exchange program, maybe it was only for 6 months. Maybe, I don't know. I'm just making this up. I don't know. But again, I mean, it could happen. Also considering that, yes, we need 2 letters of recommendation. One could be that letter of recommendation from someone living not in the same country. And remember, you need a second one. But I don't know. Ramiro, what do you think about it?
Well, I believe that if the student believes that this person can, fully expand of, what this student is all about. I don't know if that makes sense to you. I mean, if they can talk about exactly what they are meant for the program, for the Opportunity Funds program, I believe it's a good recommender. But if this person cannot articulate it specifically what the student is intent for the scholarship, I don't believe it's a good fit for this. I don't know.
Yeah, you have to evaluate your recommender.
Yeah. I mean, what we're looking for is for someone who can really talk about who you are as an applicant for the scholarship, but we need to see, the whole 9 yards, like your leadership, your involvement in the program. How does that person help you throughout your entire growing process? It could be both for the academic side or the professional side. So just think about wisely who can be the good recommender and ask yourself like different questions like, why am I choosing this person? Is this person going to help me in my uh, process to apply for the scholarship? If not, if you have that question, like, I don't think that's a good person, or I don't know if that person could help me, or could like articulate who I am as an applicant. I don't think it's a good fit to choose. So, well, that's my recommendation.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you.
Okay, we have 2 more questions, but unfortunately we have to go. So guys, Diego and Arturo, please go ahead and write down your question on Facebook Live, and we're going to answer over there, okay? Just so we don't lose these 2 questions. They're very important both. But it's we meet the time. So again, just as a recap, remember that every session will be recorded and will be uploaded to our YouTube channel. So if you have questions, if you want to go over it again, they are going to be available. Also, I'm going to be sending an email, a reminder for tomorrow's session, which tomorrow we will have the coordinators of the program. They are going to be delivering the session, and they will explain us how to apply to the scholarship, okay? So thank you everyone for being here. Thank you so much, Jorge, for your information, your input. You were great. And your fit, even perfect, even couldn't be better. Well, thank you everyone.